Hi Stampin' Friends! Today I want to share a card with the One More Year stamp set, and I've only got days left to share this because this stamp set is on the last chance list, which means it's going away, it's retiring, and when it runs out of supplies. So if you like this stamp set, you need to jump on it. It's really a cute one. I think that a lot of times the stamps that I have in my stash are pretty floral, sailboats, just really pretty stamps. And every once in a while they come out with one that is kind of snarky, and it's pretty rare. And when they do, I grab them because I think they're fun. And you know, there's a lot of people who I would not send a snarky card to, but there's a few, you know, like your brother and your sister or something like that, where a card like this is, or you know, your bestie, a card like this is perfect, and you kind of need, there's a few people in your life that this is what you need. So take a look at this one. You've got this silly little dog, a cake with a ton of candles, and then this little wine and cheese. And then here you've got your how old in dog years you'd be, you know, and stuff like that. Or happy birthday, another wrinkle wiser. Happy birthday, now back to me. At least you're not as old as you'll be next year. And then right now we're going to use this one, aging fine like cheese and wine. So that's what we're going to use right now. And we're going to make a fun, silly little slice of cheese card. So we did this at Card Buffet, and I realized I didn't make a video for it. It's silly. I've made a card with cheese before because we used to have a little fox punch, a fox builder, and it was supposed to be for a fox, but people came up with all different ways to use that little fox, and there was a really cute mouse, and so I made a cheese and mouse one. You could probably find that on my blog if you wanted to. But for this card, we are going to make cheese and use the aging fine like cheese and wine. So I've got a few pieces here. I'm using crushed curry as my yellow cheese color. And I've got a card base in crushed curry, but then I've also got a second sheet of crushed curry that's 4 by 5 1/4. Okay, and then I grabbed a piece of just basic white at 4 by 5 1/4 for the inside. I like to do that. I like to have a second piece for the inside. That's not completely necessary because this is not too dark. You could write on this. And then I cut a circle with my circle punches in basic white, and I don't know what size this is. I'm going to say 1 and, let me see. No, it's 2.5. All right, and now I grabbed, because I still have these punches, there's a 1 inch and a 3/4 inch circle punch. If you don't have circle punches, you can use circle dies as well to make your Swiss cheese. So that's what we're going to use. And I'm going to color my cheese and wine with watercolor pencils. You can use markers or whatever else you like to use. So here is the way to do this. We're going to grab our circle. Now if you have dies, you can use your dies. I'm going to use, and my piece is a little, I had a scrap that's got some cutouts, but that's going to get, or little bumps on them. I don't know how that happened, but I'm going to put it behind there, so it doesn't matter. And you're going to go ahead and take your circle punch and just randomly punch out some circles. And you want to go off the edge on some of these. Like, see, I'm gonna take that little edge off. There we go. And let's do a few more. I have a littler punch. Let's come over here. I'm trying to be random. Sometimes that's hard. Is that enough? That's probably enough. So you can kind of see that this is going to go here. Yeah, that's probably enough. Okay. So now I want to highlight these circle cutouts even more. So I'm going to grab my crushed curry ink. So I've got crushed curry paper, crushed curry ink, and I'm just going to give them a little sponging so that they show up more. So I'm just kind of going around like this. Just really highlighting those circle cutouts, like so. There we go. Isn't that fun? All right, and that was so easy, and now we have cheese. So I really want to make sure that these come up a bit. So I'm going to not glue this down flat. I'm going to use dimensionals, which are those little, this one only has a couple left on it, these little adhesive foamy pads. And normally I just usually maybe use 5 or 6 on a card, but I've got all these little bits left over from Stamp Camp. So I'm going to kind of use more than normal because I want to put it in between. I really want the circles to stand up. So I'm using a few more than I normally would, just for fun. Let's see, one there and one there. Okay. Alrighty, and let's go ahead and put, I have it upside down. There we go. There's my cheese. Cracks me up every time. All right, now for our cheese and wine. Oh, I forgot that I have this little piece here. Okay, now some people at Stamp Camp actually use these rather than throw them away, which I did not do for my sample, but when I saw them, you know, it's kind of nice at Card Buffet. At Card Buffet, when you see people taking the idea and kind of running with it, and I liked that. I think I saw Karen doing this, so I'm gonna do it too. She used these and just kind of decorated the inside of her card. It was cute, so I'm gonna do that. Okay, so I'm gonna use, I think there's one more. I'm gonna use just this Memento black ink and stamp my image. And then on the scrap paper, I'm going to do Aging Fine Like Cheese and Wine. I think this is big enough. Let's see. I just kind of grabbed a scrap. I'm not happy with my coverage here, so I'm going to turn it and do it one more time. Oops, but I got it. It's a little dirty. Let's see. Much better, and I'll cut it. Okay. All right. So to color, again, you can use markers. I'm going to do Happy Birthday on the inside. You can use markers or your Stampin' Blends alcohol markers or pencils. I'm going to use the pencils because that's what we had at Card Buffet. They don't come in a case like this. I just happen to have so many that I put them in a case, and I like to see what they look like. I call this a drawdown sheet in painting, but you just want to see what the colors actually look like. And so I'm going to use that crushed curry again, and I have multiple packs because there's sometimes these pencils come with things, like there's been some card kits, and sometimes they've changed the pencil colors that come in the pack, so then they put the older packs on sale and I buy them because I love my pencils. So here is a crushed curry. Oh, my pencil sharpener needs to be emptied. All right, so I've got my cheese. Now the Stampin' Up! Watercolor pencils are really nice. They're not just colored pencils, they're watercolor colored pencils, which means that you can use these with the addition of like a paintbrush and water to kind of get some watercolor effects, or you can use them with a blending pen, which is what this is, to get it to look more markery. It kind of smooths out the pencil lines, or you don't have to do that. You can use it just as a colored pencil. I will decide that once I kind of get going here. So I'm just gonna make the little holes darker and kind of get some variety of values in my crushed curry here, some darks and lights. I was thinking about making this a different kind of cheese, but you know, sometimes I overthink, and I'm gonna just use, oh, maybe I will. I'm gonna overthink it and go with a more of an orangey cheese. Sometimes I just can't help myself. I just have to overthink it. So this is pumpkin pie. And then I'm gonna come back with my crushed curry. I don't know what kind of cheese this one is. I'm not a big cheese person, to be honest, but I love the snarkiness of that stamp set. All right, so now I'm going to do these grapes, and of course I'm going to use Gorgeous Grape. There you are. Now I can't help myself because I really enjoy coloring. I left the centers of my grapes open so that I can come back in with kind of a cherry cobbler and fill in the grapes so then they have different tones to them, different color. I like to use different colors. I have to make things take a little longer than normal, right? I am a color. I love coloring. Some people do not like to color, but I find it very relaxing. So see, my grapes have two tones to them, and I like that. You know, grapes are kind of shiny and pretty. All right, now for my wine, I don't know a lot about wine, to be honest, but I decided to make it like a green bottle, like the bottle is a green glass bottle, and that way I didn't have to worry so much about color. So you can kind of choose what greens you want to use. And here's where I like to refer to my sheet here, right? Because we've got garden green, we've got olive, and which one looks more like a wine bottle? I don't know. I think there's wine bottles in both. I did the one on the card buffet in garden green. I think I'm going to go olive on this one. Oh, this one's sharper. Let's go with this one. See if we like this bottle better. All right. And then I thought, you know, for that wine label, maybe it's a different color. It's got like a seal on it. Still unopened, although I don't know where that wine came from if this bottle's not open. It's a second bottle. Okay, so let's see. What color wine do I have? I don't even know. Like I said, I don't know my wines. I'm going to use cherry cobbler and go with like it's a red wine, perhaps. All right, and then I didn't want that glass, even though it's a glass, I didn't want it to be nothing. So I grabbed a really light, I believe it's Pool Bar, no, it's Bermuda Bay, which is no longer available. So I think the newer color has Balmy Blue. Let's go with Balmy Blue. Like I said, some of my pencils are older. Yeah, the new one's called Balmy Blue. So let's add a little bit of that, just so he's got a highlight, a little color to the glass. A little bit down the stem. I just didn't want it to be plain. Give it a little bit of something, something. And then the rest of the label, I didn't know what to do with the rest of the label, so I just kind of went with a brownish color. Maybe I'll go pecan pie. Well, let's see. Where is pecan pie? There it is. Okay, so all of my elements are colored in here, and then I can decide, do I want to go ahead and do that extra step of bringing in that blender pen or some water? I decided I don't want to do water. I did cut this out in basic white, which is not a watercolor water paper, but if you're just doing a real quick with a barely damp brush, you can use it. But I didn't want to do that, so I'm going to go ahead and use this blender pen. These are really fun, and I think that we don't use them as much as we used to back in the day before alcohol markers. I'm going to ground my objects here. There's no table or anything, but I just kind of want to give them something to be sitting on. So I'm just going to give them a little shadow here with some gray. Oh, I forgot the leaf on my grapes. Oops. So I'm just giving them a little something so they're not just floating in the air. And I'll fade it out a little bit. All right, and then let's do that leaf real quick before I forget. All right, so a blender pen. What this is it's kind of like a glycerin or some kind of, I believe it's like a glycerin, but it's clear, but slightly oily. And then what you do is you just kind of, like I'll do this glass, you go over your area, and hopefully you can see that. It's kind of smoothing out the pencil lines. Now I don't want to lose the dark area, so if you go back and forth, you could accidentally lose this dark area that I did on the side, and I didn't want that to happen, so I kind of carefully pushed the pigment towards that area. And then when you want to switch colors, like I just kind of came over to the side and wiped it off, and now I'm going to come in and smooth out the blue. And then I'm going to wipe it off, and I'm going to work on this purple. And I'm going to wipe it off so you can see how it's kind of coming off on the paper. Smooth this out, and then I wiped it off. Let's get that wine. These grapes are kind of going to come alive when I do this because it's going to kind of blend those two colors. You know how I left the gorgeous grape on the outside of the grapes, but I put cherry cobbler on the center of each grape? That really shows nicely when I used this. And this is such a tiny little image that I'm not sure that it's going to come across in the video, but it is really cute. All right, now let's do this cheese. Again, I don't want to lose the dark on the edges, so I'm going to start in the center here with my, and I forgot to clean in between when there's red in there. And I'm going to try, and then I'm going to clean. I'll come over here to this one. Clean. Do the label. So it's not necessary, it just adds a step, but it kind of smooths out all that pencil. Isn't that nice? Okay, now the only part I didn't do then is the shadow underneath, so let's go ahead and do that. Just kind of smooths out those lines. Oops, I got too close to my cheese and I spread it on there. All right, Beth, that's okay. It's glowing onto the table. All right, so there is my aging fine like cheese and wine. I'm going to go ahead and attach this to my card right there. And then we're almost done. I'm going to show you what I did with the inside, or what Karen showed us what to do with the inside. Where is my glue? There it is. It wasn't in the glue stand, so it wasn't upside down. There we go. Let's put it in the glue stand. Okay. I'm going to put it here. I'm putting it down flat, overlapping this little piece there. Really fun. And then I'm going to chop this a little bit. Okay, now I have this twine left over from a paper pumpkin. If you get paper pumpkins, sometimes you get cute little twines, and we used that. Now when it comes on these little spool like this, and see how it's got these sharp little angles, and I don't want those sharp little angles. So what I do is I take my bone folder and I just rub it across, like between my thumb and the bone folder, and just give it a nice little scrape there. And now I don't have those sharp, see here, I can show you sharp points on this one, little scallopy look to it, and not on that side. And I'm just going to make a bow. Just gives a little extra. Now If you don't have this, you can use white baker's twine or some linen thread, or maybe you've got some ribbon laying around. That will work nicely. It's just a little textural element, a little something extra. All right, so let me cut that. And I'm going to attach that with a glue dot, if I can find one. Okay, so I'm going to put that down just kind of here with a glue dot, and then I'm going to take the sentiment and kind of cross on top of it, and I'm going to use some dimensionals for that as well. What was the side I liked? I think I liked the other side. Okay. All right, and then I'm going to just kind of cross in front of that, like so. Very cute. Aging fine like cheese and wine. And on the inside, I was going to go ahead and put down this happy birthday, another wrinkle wiser. And then I'll show you what I did with, or what Karen showed us what to do with these little circles. It's a little bit crooked, isn't it? Too much wine. She just kind of laid these down, and I thought that was super clever. Why throw them away when you can lay them down, right? And I'm gonna need another glue soon. Now you want to have a place to write. You know, someone's going to want to say, you're going to want to say who you are and a little message. So I left a little bit of space here for my name. I've got this little tiny scrap, but that might just be too little to put down. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do it. Why not? Okay, there we go. Aging fine like cheese and wine. Super fun birthday card. If you like it, one more year birthday cards. These are really fun, and this is on the last chance list. When they sell out, they're gone. So this is kind of at the end of its line, and I just wanted to show you this card with it. I've used this dog a ton, and I love this one with all the candles because you can be like, you're how old? Or, you know, just how many candles are on there. It's really fun. You can add some of these little fun little sparkles too. So really cute stamp set. I love having this in my stash. I usually sell things when they retire, but this one I will not, because it's rare to find kind of these sets that are snarky like that. Maybe that's not the right word, but just kind of silly and fun. So grab this. This is a great thing to have in your collection. I'll put a link in the video description, and I hope you enjoyed my card. Thanks for watching.